Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Perspective. The PM's visit of the GHQ, he was there with his team and he received briefings on the ongoing operations and updates on the campaign against terrorism. Let's hope that the military and the civilian government will be on one page and it will be seen to be on one page to the world. All the rumors, all the controversies surrounding this very controversial relationship till date will be laid to rest. We will be talking about that. We will also be talking about the upcoming presidential election. The fact that the opposition is divided bodes well for PTI. Certainly Arif Alvi Saab seems to be a shoo-in. Let's talk about that. Let's also talk about politics of opposition versus a politics of government. PTI certainly, just 10 days, but it seems to be, criticism is being leveled against the newly come in government also. Certainly, they should be getting the time to find their feet, so to speak. Let's talk about all of that. I have with me Dr. Niaz Murtaza Saab, who's a political analyst. Thank you for joining us today. And Kanwal Shuazab, who's an MNA with PTI. Thank you for being with us, Kanwal. And Javed Rana Saab, who's a senior journalist. Thank you for your time. Niaz Saab, to start off with you, like I said, it seems like it was one of the, traditional briefings, of course, the new Prime Minister, very much the Commander-in-Chief of Pakistan Army also getting the briefings, getting the latest updates. Do you think that this will be, one certainly hopes that it will be the start of a relationship with the military, which will, which will lack all the controversies that it has had, till date. And if one doesn't acknowledge that, it would be wrong. Do you think that it will have that kind of relationship and that the world will see it that way?
Yeah, I mean, certainly there is this hope that, after the fairly contentious relationship under both the PPP and PMLA and relationships between the PTI government and the army will be better. There are of course all kind of controversies, rumors, gossip around it. But if we put that aside, what you need to see is that, this is the most important domestic relationship that there is in Pakistan. The one between across the two twin cities. And I think this kind of a briefing was crucial for all the new government functionaries. A lot of them are brand new into the government. Of course Shah Mahmood Qureshi is experienced, but all the other people, including the Prime Minister himself, it's a new ball game for them to understand the security challenges that Pakistan faces, our level of preparedness, and then the army's views on the different kind of challenges, and obviously from those security challenges emerge the kind of foreign policy that Pakistan should be following, which of course is the domain of the civilian government. But there've also been a lot of controversies in Pakistan's
PTI
history.
Before said also, I mean, according to them, the stakeholders, which army itself is very much a stakeholder, right, Kanwal? And your government did say from the very beginning that they would be taking all the stakeholders together and taking their input. So army itself is a very big part of that, right?
Yeah, obviously, and I would see this this beginning and today's meeting. It's a well begin, I must say, and keeping aside all the controversies which were attached with the civil and military relationship in history. I think it should be history now. We have a very good professional army, alhamdulillah, and they are very neutral. They have been neutral for last 10 years now, since the democracy is prevailing. I think keeping aside all the controversies attached, let's focus on the real issues and challenges which Pakistan is facing, be it a security environment, the threat spectrums, and the type of response we always expect from our army, and we have a professional army. So all these briefings were part today of this meeting, and it was the longest meeting ever any Prime Minister and his cabinet has with the army chief or in the GHQ, almost 10 hours. So this also shows the keenness of the civil government and the Prime Minister, how they are more focused on the security challenges which we are facing, because we have security threats, we have porous border, and there's the longest border which we need to insulate. I think many things must be discussed there which we are unaware of, but we have got a overall perspective that it was a very good meeting, and I hope it will go hand in hand.
Yeah, because the relationship will continue
without
as
army,
it progresses.
And in our present situation, when Pakistan is in, we have the challenges, and we are right now facing this ongoing Operation Radul Fasad, and the internal and external both challenges are there, the security threats. So such type of meetings, I think, are very should be warmly welcomed if the civil government and the military government both are taking so much interest to take Pakistan along and in a very good way in future.
Right. Javed, it is certainly, it is one of those standard meetings that happens every time a new government comes in, is it not? And of course, like Kamal is saying, this was a very, it was the longest that there has ever been. Do you think that it was unconventional?
It may be a tradition in the sense that the briefing has to take place for the new Prime Minister and for the new government. But again, at this particular point of time, this meeting is taking place when US Secretary of State Mike Pompeo is scheduled to visit Islamabad on 5th of next month. So I think I can assume that the focus of the briefing probably would be on how to resolve the lingering insurgency inside Afghanistan, our troubled relation with India, particularly some sort of proposals were there previously, and then there were offer of dialogue on Pakistani side. So I think all those broad contours, I assume, would have been discussed in that meeting.
Right, considering that there was a certain breach of protocol as far as the call.
I think there were lapses on the part of the new government. Probably they were not aware of this telephonic call to begin with should not have taken place, because under the protocol this should have been with the Shah Mahmood Qureshi, our foreign minister. But nonetheless, that's all over now. Now they are going to again come up with a pressure that this is the time to end to take a decisive action against the so-called militant hideouts. I think probably Prime Minister would have been briefed.
Do you think that we're moving towards a shift in policy? Perhaps, because of the statements that Imran Khan Sahab himself made, right before he took oath and then later also, there, do you think that there's going to be...
That shift is there, but let me explain that.
Right.
The foreign policy was at the heart of the civil-military tension with Asif Zardari from 2008 to 2013 and with the previous government of Nawaz.
Right.
And that foreign policy means how to resolve the issues inside Afghanistan and our troubles with India. Right. I think Imran Khan is naturally synced with the military's approach. Okay. He doesn't have any problem in pursuing what military thinks on in what manner there should be a solution of Afghanistan problem. But at the same time, he's the civilian government is the face of Pakistan, and Imran Khan, I believe, is a better face to project Pakistan's stance on Afghanistan. Pakistan has been under tremendous pressure to take what they call a decisive action against the militant hideouts on Pakistani side of the border. Right. And I think Pakistan, you might recall, in North Waziristan, Pakistan launched a mega operation. More than 1 million people were displaced, and thousands were killed, and I would say far more number were pushed inside of Afghanistan. Right. So at that particular point of time, Pakistan was under tremendous pressure, and Pakistan had to undertake a massive operation. But nonetheless, that there is no let up to that pressure. They are again having the same mantra of do more, do more. Right. The Afghan Taliban or the Haqqani group, they are not on Pakistani side of the border in any organized manner. Previously, they were in an organized manner. So therefore, this pressure from Americans is quite undue.
You say, and of course, I mean, this visit, I mean, of course, it will be a kind of a test case, in a sense, for the new government, don't you think?
I expect, and we have heard also the leaders of the new government, that they are saying that this time around, the relationship with Americans are going to be decent one on bilateral relation on equal footing.
Right,
But
which is
again, the question that you raised, that's very important.
I will come back to you on that. I have to go to Niaz Sahab now, but I will let you answer.
But
Niaz
on the
Sahab-
shifting stance.
Right. Niaz Sahab, again, it is, I'm going to go on to you with that question. As far as the shifting stance is concerned of the PMLN, a lot of things Imran Khan Sahab said. He was very aggressive. He said we have to deal with them on an equal footing. Let's talk to them like, we're not going to we're willing, our agenda is Pakistan only. Things like that, which are the right kind of things to say, which everybody wants to hear. But how practical are they in terms of our problematic relationship with the US?
Yeah, I mean, equal footing, then, it immediately raises a question of why, the Prime Minister took the call of the Foreign Secretary, the Secretary of State. That's not
Right.
equal footing. As Mr. Rana was also saying, that call should have been taken by Shah Mahmood Qureshi.
Right.
So, there's all these kind of tensions that will come, once you're on the job, those kind of tensions do emerge. And of course, relationship at least initially might be more smooth.
But these
between
kind of
the
lapses,
PTI.
don't you think they're more to do with the fact that it's a new government, the first time come in? So
Well,
they
Shah
will be
Mahmood is
discuss-
not new. He
Right.
knows the protocol, and of course, everything is routed through the Foreign Office, of course. So
Right,
they know the protocols. So it might be seen as a breach, and some eyebrows might be raised.
Kanwal,
and so on.
why did this happen in your opinion? I mean,
I think it was, I can't give my statement on it. I think Foreign Office has already clarified it. Maybe it was a breach of protocol, probably. And
Right.
yes, as things are going in a very smooth and casual way, as
Right.
long as the new government is concerned. But let's come back on the subject of the matter.
right.
I think the first speech, not as Prime Minister, but as after winning the election, which was made by Khan Sahab, was very comprehensive one, and it has given a bigger message in, I think, using small words throughout the world, and especially to our neighbors, especially to India, especially to Afghanistan. His mindset was clear that he means business now about Afghan policy, about Afghan border, and the war on terror, which is going on for so long.
Right, but I mean, it's early days yet, but of course that statement has to be taken through. I mean, it's not just like Niaz Sahab is saying, it's not just about the new Prime Minister making his speech, but then later, of course, if we have to deal with them on an equal footing, then we can't really, take...
But I think that matter is over now. That let's move forward, as the Foreign Office has made the statement that now.
Right, let me go on to Javed Sahab, I'll come back
Let's move
to you.
forward, and I think
Right.
after today's meeting,
Right.
again, we are looking forward for that this visit, which is going to happen on 5th of September.
Right.
And after that,
Do
we'll
you think
able
it'll be a
to-
test case for your government?
I
Let's
don't
be
think
honest.
so.
I mean,
I
it
don't
is-
think so, because
it's
maybe
one
a
of those
test case
visits.
for US government now.
Okay.
After so long, it's going to be their test case. We are very clear-headed.
Okay, that's a very interesting thing.
You-
I'm going
you
to go
must see
to
the
Javed Sahab. I'll
Khan
come back
Saab's
to Javed
comment
Sahab.
in
Kanwal is saying it's
2013.
going to be a test case for the US government. She's followed her leader. She's
I think
taken on
if we go by the previous statement of Imran
Right.
Khan, those were that once he's in power, he's going to end country's alliance with Americans. That's not going to happen.
Right,
Imran Khan has grown very pragmatic.
right,
He's not that much idealistic as he's used to be in the past.
right.
But I think establishment needed a leader, a political leader, who could have been more forthcoming as compared to Asif Zardari or Nawaz Sharif.
Right.
Because during Asif Zardari there was a Memogate scandal, and then during Nawaz Sharif time there was Dan leak scandal. So I think now the military establishment would certainly like the new leader to assert Pakistan's foreign policy, at least to give some semblance of independent foreign policy. We are not saying it's going to be purely a genuine independent foreign policy.
Right.
The reason being is that Pakistan is gradually coming into the block of Russia and China. Part of the reason is that now US is being largely perceived as a declining superpower. No longer it has that kind of influence
Clout,
on
right,
Pakistan
right.
and other countries as it used to have 10 years back, 15 years back. But nonetheless, it's still a great power.
Right, right.
Pakistan has to deal with. Pakistan, I think now, since Russians are very much there, a meeting was postponed of Taliban's India and Iranian and Pakistani participation in Russia.
Right.
That means the Russians have now greater influence on Afghan Taliban.
Right.
They are player in this entire game. Iranians have great influence on Afghan Taliban. Iranians have been providing sanctuary to Afghan Taliban. So Pakistan is trying to let Americans know that you also need to take on Russians, take on Iranians. That is not happening. So there has been undue pressure on Pakistan, and I think this is where the test of this new government is.
Will come in.
They have to explain to the Americans that they need to talk to the Russians, they need to talk to the Iranians, and more importantly, Americans have already started direct talks with the Afghan Taliban.
Right.
So the reality on the ground is the Afghan Taliban are controlling close to 70% territory, and they are having a virtually a parallel status in Afghanistan. They have parallel diplomatic status in the region. They have their diplomatic office in Qatar. They've been negotiating through Turkey, China, Russia, Iranians, Pakistan. So I think it's not a dash, it's a different case. So largely world is taking Afghan Taliban as an opposition inside Afghanistan. In that broader context, I think this is the time, this government, and that is what probably military would like in, to assert Pakistan's policy. And previously, there was strong suspicion. I don't say that former Prime Minister was involved, but there was strong suspicion that he was pursuing the narrative of the US and India on Afghanistan. In what manner Afghanistan issue should be resolved. He was pursuing their policy. Therefore, the military...
But you don't think there'll be any such controversy, any such divide with the present leadership, the military and the civil?
I think when it comes to Afghanistan, India, that divide would not be there, but there is a divergence.
Okay.
I think purely on domestic issues, and that is enforced disappearances. And that is where I think
there will be,
there could be problematic area.
Right.
It depends in what manner the civilian government approaches this issue,
right,
and in what manner military respond back. And
right,
today's statement of our Human Rights Minister is very important.
Right.
That they are saying that they're going
they
to
don't need.
They are saying that we are going to make it sure that all those people who have been kidnapped, who have been illegally detained, they are released. And
so you're saying that of course that's where they're going into the purview of the establishment or the military.
Exactly. That is that could be a problematic area. Otherwise, I think on foreign policy, I think they will have a smooth relation.
Right. Niaz, moving on, let's talk about the presidential election. The opposition is divided, therefore it gives a walk. It lets as far as the PTI is concerned, they can Arif Alvi Saab is a shoe-in. There doesn't seem to be a major kind of problem there. It bodes well for the PTI, but overall, I mean, there were a lot of talks about this opposition being, going to create a lot of issues as far as giving a tough time to the new government is concerned. And if there is tension within, there's a fragmentation between themselves, that doesn't seem to be happening.
Yeah, I mean, just one or two sentences on the last issue.
Right.
I think even on the foreign policy issue, there are some areas of differences. I think Imran is more dovish on India. He would like, relationships to be friendly, trade and so on, but the military might have its own views. And then also on the issue of, fighting with Afghanistan,
which was something
the Taliban.
that was an issue with the former Prime Minister also.
With Taliban, I mean, Imran had much stronger views on not fighting with the Taliban, but having, peace talks with them.
Right.
But that seems to have disappeared. So we'll see, I mean, these issues will creep up.
But
I mean,
that was
it
about
would be
Pakistani Taliban.
That was about Pakistan.
Scenario has changed.
It would be unrealistic to expect that there won't be any issues.
He's the Prime Minister of the country. The scenario
policy.
has changed, like Kanwal is saying.
So those issues will be there. I mean, India is
now
not going anywhere.
Right.
So, but coming back to the presidential elections,
right,
I think it's fairly smooth. Going for the PTI. I mean, there's an opposition within the opposition,
right,
and they don't seem to be agreeing on anything, trying to make the effort. to be on the same page, to try to put a united front.
Perhaps it
And
was too, it was, I mean, the goal itself was, too difficult because it's a very, different political parties forming this joint opposition.
I mean, the
It
thing is,
seemed
the
to be difficult
situation
in
of the
beginning.
parties is very different.
Right.
The PPP has its own niche, a corner, Sindh, it doesn't want to rock the boat too much, doesn't want to create too many problems with the federal government, because it would require the cooperation of the
Asif Ali
federal
Zardari,
government.
and like you're saying, it doesn't want to be part of that hard.
And he has all these cases going on, and some people are saying that strings are being pulled from Pindi and so on. So I don't know if it's true or not. But the thing is, the PMLN is in a completely different boat, and Asif Zardari is swimming somewhere in between. So I think what's going to happen is he'll choose issue by issue where he thinks his interests will be served by being with the government. He'll go with that, and where he thinks he should be going with the opposition, he'll do that. So the united front, at least not in the immediate future, unless the screw is really tightened on Asif Zardari so much that he feels compelled to move towards the opposition. So I think he will adopt a more conciliatory approach.
But Fazlur Rahman Saab and now Etizaz Ehsan Saab, if they had one candidate, certainly.
I don't think they would have won even then.
Even then, but
it would have been closer, and it would have sent a symbolic message.
Right.
Clearly, Mr. Etizaz Ehsan is the better candidate. There's no doubt about that. But then I don't think even the PMLN was serious about this post, because otherwise they wouldn't have given it to Fazlur Rahman. They would have appointed somebody senior from their own party.
But they seem
if
to
they
want
had the idea.
But they
that
seem
they
to
could
want to
win.
make that statement that they want to have their own candidate, certainly.
And this is not their candidate. So it shows a certain amount of non-seriousness, that they know they're not going to win, so they're not putting in their own heavyweight, and they're just letting this position go. So now the last position will be, Chairman Senate, whether they can, if they want, they can easily have the chairperson position, but then whether there'll be enough unity within the opposition, especially PMLN and PPP, that seems to be there. That's a very important
And
position.
it depends on whether Asif Ali Zardari agrees to play ball or not. I mean, like you're saying, he has a lot of baggage. Right, Kanwal, what's your opinion on this?
I think what Dr. Niaz has said, I have little different opinion and little different words. I think stubbornness is more appropriate word than seriousness.
Okay.
And I think it's because of the egoistic behavior of Mr. Shahbaz Sharif, as always, that this fractured and most distracted so-called strong alliance of opposition we have seen divided.
So you're laying the blame on his
Last
door.
time you asked me one question, how will you encounter such strong opposition? And I said, on what grounds? This is a very unnatural and unholy alliance, and you will find them very weak. Now coming back to Mr. Maulana Fazlur Rahman, he was playing a part of mediator, and in the end he ended up
being the candidate.
Evolving as a candidate,
Right.
which is, I think, very selfish of him. And reason, I must again say, is the stubborn nature of Shahbaz Sharif, and then the foresightedness of probably Mr. Zardari, because now you see Shahbaz Sharif or Muslim League Noon has nothing to lose. They have lost federal government, they have lost Punjab. So right now they are on weaker grounds as compared to People's Party,
which has
as compared to People's Party, and People's Party has gained in these elections 2018, and they still are holding government in one province, which is Sindh. So why would they come so close to Shahbaz Sharif when their workers have some reservations, or the other way we must say? So because they are totally different, both of
they
have different
their whole
perspective is different.
Right.
And as long as we the excuse which Muslim League Noon was giving about Mr. Etizaz Ehsan, who is in comparison with Maulana Fazlur Rahman, as he said, is much better a candidate than Mr. Fazlur Rahman, that he was a hardcore, or his statements were very anti-PMLN and anti-Nawaz Sharif in particular, I must say.
Right.
But if going back in that way, if we see the statements of Nawaz Sharif and Shehbaz Sharif themselves against Bibi, they, you know, they
Right,
were
of course, that's
much.
you're right. Let me go to Javed Sahab. Javed Sahab, do you agree with this that, you know, really it's about, one has to lay the blame at Shehbaz Sharif Sahab's door
I
as far
agree
as...
with the Niaz because he made very correct assessment.
Right,
The People's Party had options. I mean, PMLN had given them clear options
right,
that instead of Etizaz Ahsan, you can bring Yusuf Raza Gilani or maybe any other candidates. To me, somehow I feel that perhaps Asif Zardari Sahab really wanted a divided opposition, and he seems to be scared right from within. I mean, it was not that difficult for the People's Party to bring out a candidate from its own party.
right.
And
Anybody else.
Anybody
Right,
to have
it
a
didn't
joint
have to be.
candidate, and this could have been a decent contest. It would have, I would say, this would have been an encouraging sign for the
Right,
democracy.
right.
That has not happened. It appears that perhaps Asif Zardari Sahab is making it sure that the opposition remains divided. We have to see that PML.
So you're laying the blame at Asif Ali Zardari.
And I would say PMLN is very desperate.
Right,
They want to be on defensive posturing, and if they need the help of Fazlur Rahman Sahab,
They will take
they
it.
They
Right.
don't have any problem,
Right.
because he has also been demonstrating very offensive posturing against PTI.
Right.
So I think in a broader context, I see that somewhere Asif Zardari Sahab is scared, and I think the nature of cases against him that speaks volume. Why People's Party has got a reluctant policy and hesitant policy. They are avoiding to go along with PMLN, and I think part of the reason is obviously that People's Party has stake in the entire system. They have a government in the Sindh, and then if PMLN has been leveling very serious allegations against PTI when it comes to the elections, rigging and all that. But again, People's Party itself has faced similar allegations on 25 seats in Sindh. So I think in somehow the other, People's Party would keep on saying that we want parliamentary commission,
Right.
but they would not insist on it. So it is the PMLN and MMA which will makes these kind of political noises. We'll keep on hearing, and I really doubt that there will be an independent investigation into the rigging allegations.
Right. As far as, you know, let's move on. Niaz Sahab, as far as, let's look at the government, it's been 10 days only since the new government has come in. But, you know, like we were earlier talking about, there seems to be, the criticism has been directed against them. You know, you know, there were a lot of people who were singing praises about this new government, and there is, you know, there seems to be a certain shift, you know, a criticism being talked about against the new government. It's different, you know, the optics of it, which is largely a huge part of what, you know, Tabdili was about. Not only that, but a large part of it. How do you see the things the way they're
Well, I
panning
mean,
out?
you know, it's really ferocious and vicious, you know, the kind of criticism that's happening. It's almost like, you know, during the last few months of PMLN. And I don't know if it was so vicious in the first 2 weeks of the PMLN and the PPP governments. I doubt it. And, you know, it's partly because of, you know, the high expectations
Yeah, do
that,
you
you know, the
think
PTI had laid, not from its actual conduct, but just from its own criticisms of the PPP and the PMLN governments. So, you know, now people are expecting fast change, and then it's also been a bit slow on, you know, coming up with solid policy
Right.
initiatives that got entangled into all these austerity
Right,
measures,
right.
which have a certain role. It's a minor plus, but, you know, being that as your front
Do you think that
attack.
they're as important as they were being
No.
fielded as? You know, the austerity is one
You know,
of...
to make that your centerpiece of your beginning of the innings, I
Right.
think that was not appropriate. The focus should have been on 2 or 3 solid policy initiatives that would catch everybody's attention, and then you can have the austerity measures on the side.
Especially because the 90-day period in which, you know,
Yeah.
Imran Khan Sahab has said that the PTI will make all these drastic changes and the jobs and all of that,
Yeah.
that those are also, you know, the kind of concrete steps people are looking
Well, you know,
for.
the causality chain of change is, you know, outcomes will come from the quality of PTI actions, legislation, legislation, policy and projects.
But
And
we
the
have to
quality
give them
of that
time.
will depend on, the quality of the team. So
Right.
right now we can't judge outcomes or, even the action, just the quality of the team. And there, a lot of cabinet appointments. I don't call them cabinet appointments, but cabinet disappointments. There's just so many old faces, people with, fishy backgrounds, no real, track record of bringing about change, a lot of fresh faces, and that's good, but then they also have to have experiences. And then, the changes within the bureaucracy, there was hope that, for the
But Niaz,
head of
they
the
seem to be in a problematic spot, because on the one hand we want them to bring in experienced people,
Yeah.
and on the other hand we want them to bring in people who have no baggage. So whenever,
Yeah, the pool becomes very small.
Right.
Yeah, but then, you can still, I mean, everybody talks about Imran's cricket background and what he was able to achieve, but if you remember his cricket, he always brought about a meritorious team. All the sifarishes, he, put aside the political pressures and, selected the best team. And we were hoping, and then, he had this knack of discovering new talent. And you don't see any of that in his cabinet disappointments. It's all the old, tired faces. So then, if you just look at the causality chain, the team is weak. Then what about the quality of the action that will emerge from that team? And then the
Let's
outcomes.
give Kanwal a chance to answer
Yeah.
that one. Kanwal, you think that the team, of course, will deliver whatever kind it is, whether it's tried and tested, whether it has baggage or not, whether it comprises of certain new members also?
Yes, I'm pretty much confident. I won't say 100% because we should give margin of doubt to everyone.
Right.
But I'm pretty much sure because the will and the determination to do, and beside all this propaganda which has been launched on different channels.
Why has this propaganda been launched?
Let me finish the first thing and then I'll give you the other one. There's a lot of serious work going on during the cabinet meetings, and from today's meeting with the COS even, if you can imagine 10 hours straight,
Right.
why would a Prime Minister spare 10 hours with the COS? He spent even more hours with his cabinet meetings because he's serious to do many things, and many measures have already been taken, many task forces have been appointed, many committees have been made who are going to report him after every 15 days.
Right.
So you will see the 100 days agenda he has started implementing, and he's working in a very right direction. Maybe plus minuses are always there because we have to always give him also margin of doubt, and knowing that this is the first time he's getting into this entangled and this
Complicated, of course, certainly.
system.
It is
But
complicated,
when he has that will and desire, he will deliver.
So,
Now, what
so why
about the propaganda?
Right.
Propaganda is to just disillusion all the people who are eagerly waiting for the change. But let me remind everyone, 35-40 years of all this building up of economic disasters and all the confusing and distracting all these institutions.
Right.
So at least give government
Some time.
100 days and then some time to move forward. And if our direction is right, and if we are willing to do things in a right direction, and also talking about the austerity, you have to set some examples. If you start from yourself, then you can point fingers to others, okay, start following us.
Right.
So that was also important, starting in implementing it in the first week. Maybe there are some challenges, the security issues.
But
on
that's
top.
what I want to, there's this whole debate now on social media, which is a good thing, I think, because they're talking about security versus protocol. And, if you talk about the Prime Minister of the country, if it goes on to every office bearer, according to their level, according to their, rank, then all of them would perhaps require more security to their own cadre, to their own,
But
level.
we don't have to confuse the protocol with the security issues.
Right.
As long as the head of the state is concerned.
But if the security overrides, if the protocol overrides the security, certainly, that's an issue. But security is important for the Prime Minister also. I'm sure you agree.
I think after today's meeting, his
Right.
focus will be on getting rid of all these security challenges. If we move in a right direction, and with the army and their measures, which they are, applying,
Right.
get rid of all these
The problems you're saying.
problems and the root causes of all the security threats, then probably after 1 year or so, maybe we don't have any excuse to give to our viewers that there is some security issues. Let's pray for the best. But I think this is too early to launch such propaganda against a government who has...
But who is responsible for launching this propaganda?
You are the analyst and the part of media, you must give us some clue.
Analysis is only to ask you.
I think probably those people who are threatened that Mr. Khan, if he stays for 5 years, like KP, there won't be any other chance for any other government or party.
Right.
Probably they are too eager to just launch it right now.
There are a lot of people, you're saying their conspiracy is not to see him, not to see him succeed. Javed Sahab, how far do you agree with that? I mean, we were talking about this before the elections, you were also here, Niaz Sahab was here, and, Kanwal was,
I'm
the new...
I'm a bit cautious that this is basically a honeymoon period to pick up the points
but
for
it's
the criticism.
Too quick.
But there is one thing which is very important we are ignoring, and that is what the Chief Justice of Pakistan has taken a suo motu action of on the episode in Punjab. We are here talking about the direction the PTI government is going to set. Punjab is the most important in terms of winning next gen elections.
Right.
Punjab is a province on which PTI leadership has been saying that they are going to replicate police
KPK.
reforms of KPK onto Punjab.
Right.
Now, what we have seen within the last couple of days, a senior official was removed. He was summoned in same office, and there are credible media reports, and PTI is not denying it, why he was summoned and why he was questioned. To begin with, a procedure was deviated.
Right.
And then I think plausibly, prima facie, it appears that this seems to be playing favoritism.
Right.
A precise criticism the PTI has been making against the PMLN. So if that is the direction, it is a very disappointing. Had there been not a serious, had it not been a serious case, the Chief Justice of Pakistan would not have taken the notice. So since I think if you talk of police reforms, if you want to bring change in Punjab, then police is at the key point. And if you start your case from bad governance with the example of favoritism,
Right.
then there will be certainly disappointment for the people who want to see a change. And when we talk of change, that means police reforms. That means no political interference in police matters. And there is unfortunately a brazen interference in policing. So I think these are the small things. Imran Khan Sahab should make it sure that his family business is effectively separated from the official business. The chief ministers sounded, and perhaps he has acted as over officiously. I mean that was not something we were expecting. And he's the new face, and Imran Khan entirely himself is responsible to bring him on the top position. And I'm sorry to point out the kind of posturing that he has demonstrated, that is going to set a very wrong direction.
But Javed Sahab, nothing has been proved yet, and you're right, the suo motu case will, it will expose whatever actually happened in whatever manner.
But one thing is clear, nobody is denying it. Why the senior police officers were summoned in Chief Minister's house? I mean, does that show? It's a procedure? It's an official procedure. I mean, it doesn't happen.
Kanwal, why did it happen in your opinion? I mean, why?
I think now it's
was a deviation?
It's been taken by Supreme Court, and we should wait.
No, but the government, I'm sure
we
will.
should, yeah.
Unfortunately, no, but unfortunately,
commenting on it, maybe
No,
might
but
invite
unfortunately-
me to Supreme
No,
Court.
no,
It's
but it's not. I
matter
mean,
under-
we are not. I mean, we're only asking your opinion as a representative of the government.
I had different
considering-
opinion, obviously.
Right.
I had different opinion.
Right.
There should be always a second thought as well. Talking about the citizens'
But do you think
rights.
it was a deviation from procedure, of course, to call
Let's-
these officers?
Let's be honest and rational
Right.
to a bit, because I was sitting on another channel who were discussing the same story 2 days back. My opinion and perspective was different, because there was a complaint made by the citizens as well, against the attitude of police. And it's the same police, Punjab police, without any reforms. Only the government has changed. Nothing has been changed in the police right now. So maybe they are trained to misbehave with the citizens, and you will find thousands of complaints from the citizens.
About
so probably,
this officer, particularly about Gondal?
I don't know the officer, but giving it a second thought, as you are asking
You're
about
saying
my
that
own
it
opinion.
could be attributed
It could be,
generally to...
yes. And if something has been reported by the citizens that they have misbehaved or something happened other way around,
it should be exposed.
it should be exposed.
Right, of
and
course.
about Maneka Saab, I would also say and very humbly request the media not to quote first Bibi always when they are quoting Mr. Maneka, because he's an individual who has been official, the custom in
Very
charge.
powerful individual.
Powerful is this, I think this is stigmatized by using the first lady, attaching him.
Right,
We
right.
are stigmatizing it, we are using it
The point
wrongly.
is to expose whatever happened, and the point is to expose it to the greater good of Pakistan, to the greater good of Punjab, to the police. You know, if they are actually, Niaz sahab, right, if they are actually, you know, creating this issue, if they're not behaving the way they should be behaving, bearing their, you know, rank, then certainly it
we
should
I
be
mean,
know
if
the
there are
black
any
and white,
complaints
the other way
against
around.
an individual, there's a set procedure. You have to
Right.
have inquiries and this and that. You can't just remove him like that.
Right, right.
But again, all said and done, yeah, I think criticism is healthy. Maybe it's a bit too vicious so early on
Right,
in the you know, life of this government. You know, you give criticism in the hope that things will improve. But let's not also doubt, you
Right.
know, anybody's credibility or
Right,
their
right. Let's
motives.
give them the time to perform. That's what I'm saying.
And,
Javed sahab,
yeah.
quickly before, you know, we're running out of time, you know, your last comments.
I think whenever the Supreme Court takes action, that always speaks of misgovernance. It has happened in the past, and that is what Imran Khan Saab has been saying. That is the reason Supreme Court has taken so much action is because of the bad governance.
But
And
let's-
unfortunately, this was the first example.
But let's wait and let it be proven
Constructive
that it
criticism,
is that and nothing else. Let's hope that this government needs to have a chance to perform, because this is a government of, you know, not the PTI but the government of Pakistan, and it needs to be given the kind of time that it needs to implement its initiatives, right? That we do need to see some policy decisions, we need to see policy directives come out, but at the same time perhaps it's too early to level the kind of vicious, was a word used by my guests, but regardless, it's true, the kind of vicious criticism that we are seeing being leveled at the new PTI government. Let's hope that the kind of Naya Pakistan that we all want to see emerges from the kind of direction that this government will set. Thank you so much for joining us today on Perspective.